Hi everyone, my name's Lou Sims and welcome to my channel. So today, let's see how far we can take one stamped background. I'm starting with something really simple, a quick A4 page using my Be Not Afraid collection of stamps from Art Inspirations, and then seeing where it leads. Because once you've created a background like this, you have got so many more options open to you. You can keep it as a simple art journal page or cut it down into smaller pieces to create cards and tags. So this is less about one finished project and more about exploring how one idea can turn into lots of different outcomes. For this page, I wanted the original stamping to literally be in the background. So I'm taking the main focal stamp and using a Versamark clear ink, I'm literally covering the whole of an A4 piece of watercolour card and then adding white embossing powder. Once I've covered it as much as I want to cover it, I'm going to heat set straight away. And then this is where you bring you in. You just choose the colours you want to work with. If I'm trying out a different technique that isn't normally my go-to, I will always stick to the colours that I enjoy the most. And in this options, it's going to be blues and greens. I'm going to actually cover the paper in a fine mist of water because I've decided I'd like to use my Distress Spray stains to create the background. It's a really quick way to add colour, and I love the slightly translucent effect that the spray stains give each other. I've gone for salvage patina and old paper. As I actually want to create stamped embellishments as well, what I'm doing is once I've got the paper covered with the amount of colour I want, I'm going to take a separate piece of A4 card and put it over the top. This means I'm picking up the residual colour from my first page very, very quickly, but also it's a little bit of a cheat's way of taking away some of the moisture from the page and making it dry a bit quicker. I decided I wanted a little bit more of the salvage patina to show through, so I'm just adding a few extra spritz. I'm then going to put them to one side and let them actually dry naturally. I'm going to start building up the different layers now, and I'm going to use the background that's got the white embossing. Chosen to use salvage patina oxide ink and peeled paint. I wanted a slightly different green, but had a similar hue colour to the original spray stain of the old paper. So I'm going to start with the salvage patina first, and I'm just going to add in some really subtle layers, and they are really, really subtle. And then I'm going to use the same stamps again, but this time with the peel paint, and I'm just building it up bit by bit. And it's about having that little bit of extra depth in the background using similar colour tones. Not overthinking it, and I'm not going for precise stamping either. If I get it, it's a bonus. If I don't, I'm not worried. I have listed below a link to my blog. I have written a matching blog post so you can see each of the finished projects in a little bit more detail. If new to my channel, I'd love it if you hit subscribe, notifications bell, and leave a comment if you have the time. Once I've added all the stamping with the oxides, I'm going to bring in my VersaFine Clair Black. And that's because I want to add a contrast. Now, I am going to stamp with black, but I'm actually just going to really lightly touch my background. I'm not after perfect stamping at all here. I want you to be able to see the black imagery, but I'm not worried if it's not 100% perfect. So I've used one of the sentiment stamps, which was designed to be a background builder, and I'm just adding it into different places, a little bit of second and third generation too, and then it's just adding in a few more other stamped elements with the black ink. I want them to stand out, but I don't want them to be overpowering at the same time. The reason I'm adding the extra black stamping is because then the original oxide colours that I use are then pushed into the background. So we've very quickly got a multi-layered background with little or no extra stamping. I'm hoping that makes sense. I'm going to take a tissue and I'm going to very carefully wipe off where the black ink overlaps the embossing, because I still want the embossing to stand out. It makes it look like the black stamping was actually done before we did the white embossing. To make some of the imagery now stand out in the original stamping that was embossed, I'm going to take exactly the same spray stain colours and I'm just going to drop that colour in to the different elements. So I've gone for the salvage patina in the flowers, and I'm not painting out the flowers, I'm just literally dropping the colour in and we'll let it spread out. I'm going to then take the old paper and do the leaves. It's a very quick way to create layers and add some actual depth to your A4 background. Once I finished everything off, it just felt like I needed another colour. So I did go and grab my picked raspberry spray stain and flicked a little bit of pink over the top just to add a bit of a contrast colour. Got to be honest and say, as soon as I did this and I dabbed it off, really didn't like it. The colour wasn't offensive to me, it was just the splats weren't quite right. So that meant getting out my white and then flicking over the top with white just to knock back a little bit of that pink. To me, it just seemed to rescue the page. I think that's just really something in my head rather than something it actually did. I'm going to put that page now to one side. The other page that we created, which was technically a mop-up of all our previous ink, is going to be the one I use for all the different stamped elements I need. So I'm going to literally cover the whole page in as many stamped elements as I can. I'm one of these people that I will always create more than I actually need, because I'd rather have that than, you know, not have enough. In the flowers, I'm just adding some extra detail with the number stamps and the little splatter stamp. I did go away and cut everything out. I didn't think you needed to see me cut out all the different elements. And I'm going to do exactly the same as I did before with the A4 background. I'm going to bring in the spray stains again and drop in some colour. So add some colour to the flowers, to the extra leaves. So they now all coordinate a little bit more. I finished with some white splats so they would then work in the background. So to begin with, I'm going to create an art journal page as if this was in my art journal. And I'm going to take lots of the different elements and layer them up onto the A4 background. It's now personal preference where you put things, but I'm doing my composition in the middle and working my way out. The only thing is missing would be the sentiment or the quote that I would add to the finished page. So that's our first project. That's creating an A4 art journal. But I really wanted to see what else you could do with your backgrounds. Not everybody is into art journaling. So what else can you do with a background that you've created? So I've taken the A4 background and I've cut it into 4 pieces. One will create a 6x6 card, one will create a 7x5 card, and the other an A6 card, and finally what's left over will create a tag. Each of the card pieces I'm going to go round with black ink rather than create matte layers. So for the square card, I've used the main focal image, and on a scrap piece of card I've stamped the same background stamp in the black VersaFine as I did on my original background. I'm going to add it then behind the panels to give the illusion that there's that script in the background. This will then become the focal point on to my square card. Going to layer that up, and with a very simple sentiment, the card is done. You can add in extra flowers and extra embellishments just to, you know, create some extra layers or height with either 3D foam or with gel medium. For the A6 card, I'm going to do exactly the same, edge around with black ink. I've taken one of the smaller film cells and then start building my design outwards. I've added a sentiment into the centre of it and built up with some flowers and some foliage, using a mixer of 3D foam pads, so some are higher and some sit behind the actual image. This will then get mounted onto my card front. For the 7x5 card, again, it's a quick swipe round with the black ink pad to create the faux matte layer. I'm going to use the larger focal image as I did for the square card, but rather than put anything behind it, I'm going to stick it straight to the front panel. This then gets added to my card base. Because of all the white areas on the card, because it's got a greater matte layer, I decided to stamp a few extra pieces in white so they stood out. And it's then about layering up all these different elements. Again, the flowers, the leaves, a mixture, some with 3D foam, some with not. And the circles that I stamped, I'm going to cut them in half and just tuck them behind some of the flowers, so it just brings in a little bit more of the white, because the border of the card does stand out that little bit more. So it's a way of tying everything in together. Finally, the last little bit I had left over is going to create a tag. I've edged it in the black ink, but now what I'm going to do is just add a little bit more black. Because it's a tag, I'm going to build up the background. I'm taking the VersaFine Clair and using one of the stamps that I did for the original background and adding that to near the edges. So there's just a little bit more black stamping left. Now it's just about layering whatever I've actually got left from making the other 3 cards and building up an actual tag design. To see everything up close, I have written a blog post, which I will link below, and you can see each of the finished projects. So you can see how one simple stamp background can lead to lots of different outcomes, whether you keep it as a full page or cut it down into smaller pieces for handmade cards or tags. And if you do try this yourself, I'd love to know what you make from your background.